The storm crawled across the horizon like a living thing, purple lightning threading through metallic clouds, static crackling against the old comm towers that still stood like bones of a forgotten war. Eric Vale watched it from the porch of his homestead, a relic of a man carved from discipline and scar tissue. His cybernetic arm whirred softly as he adjusted the sensor drone hovering beside him. The screen flickered, then pulsed red. Something big was moving in the forest beyond the ridge, too hot to be natural. He armed his pulse rifle but didn't raise it. The motion patterns were erratic, circling, stumbling, surging in bursts. Whatever it wasn't a machine. He powered up his exoboots, the servos humming beneath the rain, and descended the rocky slope. The air grew heavy with ozone and burnt soil. Then he saw it, an impact crater glowing faintly, surrounded by molten glass and twisted trees. At the center, a creature struggled to rise. It was small, no larger than a wolf, but its scales shimmered like liquid obsidian, pulsing with crimson heat veins. The eyes, slitted and intelligent, flared when it saw him. A dragon hatchling. Not myth, bioengineered war species from the Dracona Initiative, thought extinct after the Galactic Concord banned their creation. This one was alive, terrified, and out of control. The creature lashed out, a burst of flame streaking past him, melting a boulder into slag. Arik didn't fire. Instead, he lowered the rifle and knelt, his voice low and steady through the storm. Easy now. You're not my enemy, the dragon hissed, wings flaring, trembling as if its own power frightened it. The veteran slowly extended his mechanical hand. The servos whined, a sound of machines the dragon somehow recognized. Its breathing slowed. Then with a cautious step, it moved closer. The air shimmered with heat between them, rain sizzling into steam. Arik's lips curved into a grim smile. You're just a lost soldier, he murmured. Same as me. He reached out, and the wild thing didn't pull away. The hatchling woke screaming again. A high, metallic shriek that rattled the reinforced walls of Arik's shelter and set every tool on the bench trembling. Sparks danced from the creature's nostrils as it thrashed, wings catching on the hanging cables. The temperature spiked, 40 degrees above human tolerance. But Arik didn't move from his chair. He watched through the heat shimmer, calm as a statue, waiting for the storm to pass. When the hatchling finally collapsed in exhaustion, smoke curling from its mouth, Arik approached with measured steps. You burn because you panic, he said quietly, his voice modulated through his exosuit's speakers. You panic because you remember. He wasn't sure why he spoke to it. It couldn't understand him. But words, he believed, carried rhythm. Discipline began with rhythm. He adjusted the neural dampeners installed around the shelter, tuning the field to counter the creature's thermal spikes. The technology was ancient, scavenged from the ruins of a Concord training facility, but still worked. Slowly, the hatchling's pulse stabilized. Arik placed a ration cube near it, protein and electrolytes. The creature sniffed suspiciously, then devoured it whole. For days they followed this pattern. Chaos, then calm. Arik studied it like a soldier studying an enemy formation. He logged its responses, built a containment circle using magnetic anchors, and began conditioning exercises. Sound cues, light signals, controlled restraint. The dragon resisted each one with violence, but less than before. On the seventh night, it tried to escape. It slammed into the shield wall again and again until the emitters blew. Arik lunged forward, grabbing its neck with his prosthetic arm, sparks flying as flame met alloy. Enough, he shouted, voice raw. The word hung in the air. Powerful, final. The dragon froze, eyes wide, chest heaving. For the first time, it didn't attack. It simply stared. Something in that silence changed them both. Arik released his grip and stepped back. We'll start again tomorrow, he said. The creature blinked slowly, then lowered its head, smoke curling softly from its nostrils as the first sign of trust flickered in the air between them. The mornings grew quieter. The dragon no longer shrieked at the hum of Arik's generators or flared its wings at every shadow. It watched him instead, head tilted, eyes following every motion as if memorizing patterns. Arik pretended not to notice, though he felt the weight of that gaze like a rifle sight. He spent his days rebuilding old training drones from scrap, floating spheres once used to teach recruits combat reflexes. Now they buzzed around the shelter, flashing red lights as they moved through programmed drills. The dragon, curious, stalked them. Arik triggered a drone's movement cycle, its laser pointer darting across the floor. The hatchling pounced, claws sparking against metal. The drone zipped away, beeping tauntingly. "Focus," Arik muttered. "Not rage." When the creature roared in frustration, he shut down the lights and waited until silence returned. Then he reactivated the system. The process repeated again and again. Discipline through repetition, his old commander's mantra reborn. He began attaching neural sensors to the dragon's scales, mapping emotional spikes through biofeedback. The readings fascinated him, patterns of fear, aggression, and something else, curiosity. He played recordings of his voice through the comm system while he worked, letting the dragon adapt to tone and cadence. The response times shortened. The beast was learning. One evening, a sandstorm swallowed the homestead. Wind howled through the steel plates, lightning striking close enough to overload the perimeter grid. When a support beam cracked loose and fell, Eric pushed toward the control console. But a wall of heat stopped him. The dragon stood over him, wings spread wide, shielding him from the debris. Dust and static roared around them, but it didn't move until the storm passed. When silence finally returned, Arik rested his hand against its neck. "You did good, Kale," he whispered without thinking. The creature turned its head slightly at the name, eyes narrowing with recognition. For the first time, Eric smiled and didn't feel alone. Cal grew fast, too fast for Eric's aging shelter to contain. Its wings brushed the ceiling, its breath set the air glowing amber in the dark. Every week, Arik modified the training ground, reinforced alloy panels, holographic targets, and servo platforms scavenged from decommissioned military depots. He taught Kale formation control, pattern recognition, and restraint under simulated stress. The dragon responded with startling intelligence, executing maneuvers once meant for human pilots. Yet Arik knew raw skill was not enough. Discipline came only when the mind ruled the flame. One morning, the outpost's long-range scanner pulsed with an encrypted signal. Distress beacon. A settlement 30 clicks away was under attack by mercenaries using plasma weaponry, technology banned since the Concorde's fall. Arik's jaw tightened. The coordinates matched an old comrade's name tag. He powered up his exosuit, eyes flicking toward Kale. The dragon rumbled low, sensing the tension. "You're not ready," Arik said. But Kale's wings flexed and a burst of embers rose from the floor. The message was clear. It would follow. The battlefield smelled of ozone and scorched metal. Merc drones streaked overhead, firing ion bursts that cut through the night. Arik moved like he had never retired, rifle blazing blue arcs. Kale tore through the air, his roars shaking the clouds. But when the mercenaries unleashed sonic decoys, recordings of wounded creatures, Kale faltered. Rage took over. Flames erupted uncontrolled, melting terrain and machinery alike. "Kale, stand down!" Arik shouted, voice cutting through static. The dragon ignored him, lost in fury, until a plasma bolt struck Arik's shoulder and threw him to the ground. Pain tore through the veteran, and instinct took command. "Stand down!" he roared again. The world froze. Kyle's eyes dimmed, flames retreating to glowing threads beneath his scales. It lowered its wings, stepping toward him carefully, smoke rising in apology. Arik exhaled, his voice hoarse. "You listened." For the first time, he realized the bond they'd forged was no longer between master and beast, but between two soldiers. Weeks passed, and the war returned to the edges of the frontier like a festering wound. Eric's name carried through the settlements, the veteran and his dragon, defenders of the wild zones, where the Concorde's reach had long faded. Kale patrolled the skies, his scales glinting like tempered steel under twin suns, a living symbol of deterrence. Yet Eric saw the toll beneath the legend, sleepless eyes, trembling wings after every battle. Kyle was learning control, but restraint cost him more than rage ever had. When the Cinder-Tongue mercenaries seized the mining colony of Varus Point, the settlers' signal came directly to Arik's comms. 300 civilians trapped. Arik studied the tactical map, jaw set. If we go, he said to Kale, you follow command protocols. No uncontrolled flame. The dragon stared, then bowed its head. Agreement. They launched at dawn. Auric's dropship, patched together from scavenged hulls, thundered through the upper atmosphere with Kale gliding alongside. The Merc base shimmered below, a nest of stolen plasma turrets and mechs. Auric synced his visor with Kale's neural frequency, merging man and dragon through a shared targeting feed. The world sharpened into a single pulsing rhythm. When the first strike hit, it was surgical. Kale dove through enemy fire, releasing bursts of plasma heat that sliced through armor like glass, but spared living targets. Auric's ground team advanced under the cover of smoke and wings. Every command he issued came as a pulse of thought. Left flank, steady flame, withdraw. Kyle obeyed each one. By the time the sun broke through the clouds, Varus Point was free. Settlers gathered in silence as Kale landed beside Auric, wings folding, eyes dim with exhaustion. Auric rested his mechanical hand against the dragon's neck. You're more soldier than beast now, he said quietly. Kale rumbled, a deep, weary sound that vibrated through the ground. For the first time, Auric felt pride, not for victory, but for what the creature had become. Discipline forged into living fire. Years passed and Arendor IV healed. The craters had grown over with silver grass, and the skies that once burned with plasma storms were calm again. Eric moved slower now, his cybernetic joints creaking, his once steady hands trembling as he repaired the last of the old defense drones. Kyle circled above, wings immense, each beat scattering clouds like ripples across the heavens. He was fully grown, a creature of myth born from science, feared once, now revered. Children pointed skyward when they saw him, shouting the name the settlers had given, the disciplined flame. Eric sat outside the homestead one evening, watching the twin suns sink into the horizon. Kyle landed beside him, the earth trembling softly under his weight. The dragon lowered his head, eye level with the old soldier. A low hum passed between them, not speech, but understanding. Auric smiled faintly. You've done well, he murmured. You kept them safe. From the east, an envoy ship approached, a silver dart bearing the insignia of the restored Concord. They came to offer Kyle and Auric command of a new defense initiative, human-dragon cooperation, modeled after their bond. Auric listened quietly, then shook his head. The lessons already learned, he said. Teach it forward. Don't chain it to us. Kale watched the ship depart, then turned his gaze back to his mentor. Auric's pulse slowed, his body weary from decades of war and repair. He rested a hand on the dragon's snout, the metal fingers clicking softly against warm scales. Discipline, he whispered, isn't obedience. It's choice. When dawn came, Kel took flight one last time, carrying Auric's ashes to the ridge overlooking the valley they had saved. From above, the dragon released a plume of blue flame that traced the sky like a promise. The settlers below saw it and bowed their heads. On Arendor IV, peace endured, not by fear but by the memory of a man who tamed chaos with patience, and a dragon who learned humanity's greatest weapon, restraint.